Welcome to Sunday. And on this Sunday episode, I want to go through and talk about some of the reasons why I astral project. This is a subject that I believe that I have talked about before, but I like doing it because my hope is that it will help you to ask yourself that same question and to really truly think about it. Now, I know that astral projection, first hearing about it is very interesting. I mean, who could actually hear about astral projection and not think that they would want to explore it? I remember being a kid and talking to my friend when I was 9 years old, and when he told me about it, as I listened, I thought, oh man, wow, you can walk through walls, you can fly, you could, go to other places. Now, I wasn't thinking at that time, at the age of 9, I wasn't really thinking too much about other worlds, other realities. My whole focus back then was exploring the 3D world. And that was simply because that was the only thing I really kind of knew about. I mean, the whole thing about going to other worlds of reality to me at that time was more of a fantasy. I loved reading fantasy books back then, but I wasn't thinking to myself, well, I could actually explore and travel to a different reality or a different world. So that wasn't my focus. My focus back then was being able to walk through walls, fly, explore different places. And this is something I don't like to admit. And I don't like to talk about on this channel because I was just a little kid back then, guys. So please cut me some slack because I was, 9, 10 years old. I didn't know any better. I think one of the things that I was very curious about back then was invisibility. It was something that I talk about it now, and I am honest to God when I say this. Once I really began exploring invisibility as an adult and doing this astral projection, once I started seeing what it was like, it was really kind of a big turnoff, and I don't even think about it now. But as a kid, you're thinking, wow, I can spy on people and do this and do that, and yeah, wrong, very, very much a wrong thing to do, I think. People deserve their privacy, but as a kid, these were thoughts, if I'm being completely honest with you, these were thoughts that I had. And this was the interesting thing about that. When I was young and I would do it, I would actually make attempts to, go over to maybe someone's house or something like that. And what I think was happening with this was that my guides, instead of allowing me to go to these places, would guide me in other directions. There was this person that I had this really big crush on, and that I wanted to actually, see this person. And because I had this crush, but I just didn't have the confidence to talk to her. And anytime that came up in my mind and I thought about this person's name when I would come out of my body, this was about the age of 12, maybe 13 or so. Instead of going anywhere near this person's house, I would end up going someplace else. It was completely unrelated, or at least in my mind, it was unrelated until I started learning that we are more than just this body that, we're here, that's here in the 3D world, that we're a network of beings. And so, in your mind, when you say a person's name, Joe Smith or whatever, you think, I want to see this person, and you want to be drawn to this person. You may be drawn to this person's house, but you may be drawn to a different aspect of this person. So these are things that I've learned, that we are infinite, and that when you ask to meet or see someone, you may actually be meeting that person, but meeting a different aspect of them. So the reasons why I astral projected when I was a kid were so different. And as I got older, the reasons changed. As you know, you change because you grow, you mature. And one of the things that changed my direction was when my grandmother passed away. When she passed away, I started thinking about, whether I could actually see her again, because I was very, very close to my grandmother. And so I thought maybe I can use astral projection to actually see my grandmother and meet her again. And I was actually able to do this. I shared this experience on the channel, but it was so different than I thought it was going to be. First of all, my grandmother was a little girl. She was, couldn't have been 11 or 12 years old, at least from my perception. She was adorable, by the way. And we didn't talk with one another using words. We communicated through feelings. And that was a whole new thing for me. When I was there and I was experiencing it, it was sort of instinctive, I guess, in being able to speak to that person without using words. But no, it was very very interesting and very different from what I thought. And the perception that I got when I was speaking with my grandmother was that she was more than just my grandmother. It was another thing that kind of came to me. It's one of the reasons why when people ask me about, meeting loved ones out there, and they give me that's their reason for astral projecting, I tell them, look, I think it's a wonderful, beautiful thing, but be prepared, because that loved one may not be the exact same person that you remember. You have to keep in mind that this person has made a transition, and that transition is huge. They have gone from this place to a completely different place where they've come to realize all the things that we ask questions about here, like what is the purpose of all of this? So things are going to be different for them. They're going to be perhaps more expansive in that way, and we're still seeing them from the point of view of their loved one here. So that was something that kind of came to mind, that came to mind as well for me. So back then, that was kind of my purpose. And it was interesting. After I did that, after I met my grandmother, I had decided, because my father had passed, that I was going to do that. I was going to see if I could meet up with him. This was, for me, especially important because at the time I was going through some, difficult issues. So I wanted to talk to my dad, but he was gone, and I had never actually met him. I'd been raised completely by my mom, but I'd always wanted to meet him. And when I went to attempt to meet my father, I wasn't able to find him. I ended up going up these really deep blue stairs, and I wasn't able to see him. And I was so frustrated because I thought to myself, maybe he just doesn't want to see me. It was the first time that I realized that you could have the focus and the desire to see a loved one that passed, but maybe that loved one doesn't necessarily want to see you. And that was a hard thing. Maybe that loved one has other things that they are doing out there. So that was my focus. And as I think my focus again really changed after the accident I had, after the accident that almost cost me my life. And afterwards, obviously, I began to have these beyond body experiences that were so different than my astral projection experiences, because they felt as if I was having a physical experience and not necessarily a spiritual experience, even though I was out there and I was beyond my body. So I think that at that point, my focus changed again. Why is it that I astral project, or why is it that I do the beyond body? Well, at that point, once I started doing it, I began really thinking, because I was going to these really far off, wild places. Man, if you have spent any time on this channel exploring the different episodes that I've done from the Beyond Body, and of course I still do astral project as well, but if you've taken some time to do that, you will see that I have gone to so many places. I've explored so many things. But as I've done this, my focus has changed again. And it really, once I created this channel, it really started to be the reason that I do what I do is to inspire others, to help others. I began to realize that I was given incredible access. I know this because, I've read different things, different parts. I've been on different parts of the internet, and I know that the things I see are extraordinary. They really are. And I am grateful every single time that I'm able to do it, because I know it's not guaranteed. I always have this sense that it could just go away. So I enjoy every second of it. But I also understand that it is to partly inspire you out there, if this is what you want to do. That was a part of it. The other part was to learn more about me and the infinite network that's out there that is me. And it has been an incredible journey and continues to be. So I want you to take a moment and ask yourself why, but I want you to go beyond just the whole thing about being curious about, oh, wow, that would be kind of interesting to be able to see what that was like. Like, what are the deeper things here? What is it that's deep inside? Because I think that these questions are very important, especially if you're going to put in the time that it takes to be able to do this. I think it will help you to continue, especially in those times where you may be frustrated, as I'm certain that there are people out there listening to me right now that, for whatever reason, can't achieve astral projection, at least in the moment. They're frustrated. And so if you have that solid foundation, if you have that real reason inside that, that for you helps you to continue, then, well, it'll get you through the difficult times. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. And, as always, I hope that it is inspirational for you. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And until next time, take care.